Hello. This time we will create our first knowledge graph. Before we do so, there's one question that we need to answer. Do we actually need a new knowledge graph? Or can we extend something that we already have? And usually the answer is that if you want to ask questions that incorporate elements from the knowledge graph you already have, you want to extend it. Add bits and pieces that just make the questioning more richer. But if you have elements within your company which should be totally separated, for example, human resources usually is an entity on its own, something where nobody else should be able to look at. They would have their own knowledge graph. So when you are decided on extending what you already have, which usually is what we want to achieve, or if we want to have a new knowledge graph, then this will be the screen which you are presented with. Or when you go through all the knowledge graphs that are available, there's a button to actually create a new knowledge graph, and then you get to this screen. Here you find all the different databases that Veezoo can connect to, and you obviously choose where your data is in. Also, keep in mind that one knowledge graph can only get its data from one data source. So one knowledge graph only from one connection to Amazon Redshift, for example. Another knowledge graph could then go against another database, but one knowledge graph always against one data source. So when we now create our first new knowledge graph, we are going to connect to Snowflake. I do have some data that I need to put in. And when you have put all the credentials in, everything that Veezoo needs, you can hit test connection. You can also add like another SSH tunnel, for example, for increased security. But in the end, you want to go next and give it a proper name. You want to hit next. Connection will be tested. If there's any error, you will see a red notification. Then we can go ahead. Here on the left side, you will see all the different schemas that are within the database, the Snowflake database that I've selected. If here, for example, are fashion sales, and you want to include tables that are currently necessary for your questions that you want to answer, or the business users, what they want to answer. You don't want just to pull in everything in one go, because usually that just ends up with stale branches within your knowledge graph, stale nodes. So you want to be deliberate about what you're adding. In our case, we are already deliberate in which tables we have, so therefore we are going to add everything. Also, when you click on one of these tables, you could choose to leave out columns. There are technical columns which are just not useful for business data, so you could leave them out. In that case, we are going to get everything in. Once we're done, we can hit the Add to Knowledge Graph button. And then all the information, descriptions, column descriptions, table descriptions, everything else in Snowflake, there can be a rich assortment of semantics as with other databases as well. They will all get fetched out. Veezoo will create the entities, talk later what entities are, and create a knowledge graph for you. So currently, you then end up with one file and one file per table of your knowledge graph. Remember that a table does not need to be one node in your knowledge graph. But just like that, if we open up Veezoo right here on this knowledge graph, look at it, you will see that it already looks quite good. Because Veezoo understands where relationships, where are primary keys and foreign keys, and can inherit all of that directly from your database. So therefore, you can be set up within minutes to actually ask the first questions. And from here on, it is then building upon that initially created knowledge graph. See you in the next session.